welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today, breaking down news of the day, none other than the incomparable Sharon Reed, host, commentator, Rebel HQ contributor, all-star, and also the Sharon Reed Show. Make sure you check out. Always a fascinating breakdown. And in the bullpen today, my colleague from Sirius XM, we have Reecie Colbert to talk about why people were out of their rabbit-ass mind if they believed somebody was going to skip over VP Harris for the nomination and more. Top story of the day, an employee stomped, kicked, beaten, according to her, in front of her coworkers and customers, and nobody did anything about it. Here it is.
While I was listening to her and her problems with management, the other manager, assistant manager, or key holder, whichever one position that she hold, she was inside the store running the cash register. Remind you, I had just came off a break. Okay. She came outside of the store and she had like 3 sets of keys in her hand. When she had the keys in her hand, it was a man at the ice machine waiting on ice. Okay. She instructed me. She turned around and she asked me, "Hey, Renee, are you off break?" I said, "Yes, ma'am. I'm off break." She said, "Okay, fine. You need to go inside and get on the register." I said, "Okay, yes, ma'am, no problem, I will." Okay, as I went inside to get on the register to help the other customers, I went back and I asked her what was her numbers because I wasn't able to log in on the register. As I proceeded to go back and ask her what was her numbers, I seen that she was irritated and frustrated and upset. She threw the keys in my hand and told me, "Here, don't worry about it. You handle this man. You go handle the ice. I'll go back in the store and get back on the register." Okay. She threw the set of keys in my hand. Remind you, this is like 3 different set of keys, y'all. Okay. I proceeded to the ice machine. I went to the ice machine and I'm trying the locks or whatever to unlock the machine. And I'm like, I don't know which key it is to unlock the machine. You know what I'm saying? I'm new, so I don't know which key it is. The customer that was waiting on the ice started getting aggravated. Okay, he was already upset. Me not knowing that him and the manager that was inside had already had confrontation. They had already had a problem.
Okay, now she's about to get into the physical assault, but as you hear, the manager of the Dollar General store already had some level of confrontation with the customer who wanted ice. So there's an existing conflict that has nothing to do with the employee. Here's what happened next.
The man started yelling at me, telling me, "Adios. You need to get the back in the store. If you don't know what the you doing, you need to take your fat ass back in the store. If you don't know what the you doing, seem like you don't even need to be working here." I'm like, "Sir, I'm new. Don't talk to me like that while I'm trying to help assist you. I'm new. I don't know which key it is. I'm sorry, but I don't. Don't talk to me like that. You're not going to disrespect me and then expect me to help you." So I turned around. While me and him was arguing, he pushed me and then punched me. Me? I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to defend myself. Man or woman, I'm going to defend myself. I've been with men for domestic violence. I've been through domestic. Once I learned how to fight for myself, I told myself I would never let nobody else put their hand on me, period. I don't care what's going on. I taught myself to defend for myself. So as this man pushed me, I did punch him back. Yes, I did. Once I pushed him back, he pushed me on the ground beside the ice machine and started stomping me with his steel-toe boots. Now, mind you, the key holder that was working there, the manager that was working there, the people that was there, everybody was outside the store, y'all, and they stood there and watched this man stomp me with his steel-toe boots until he wouldn't stop. until I can finally get him off of me. Look at my body, my legs. Look at my legs. My legs, my face is swollen. And I gotta explain this to my child. But like I said, I defended myself because that's what I was taught to do.
This happened in Mississippi. Put up the picture full mass. We're going to stay on top of this until there's an outcome we support. Per Atlanta Black Star, Michelle Renee Abney was 3 weeks only into her job at a Dollar General store in a place called Laurel, Mississippi, where she said she was attacked by an irate customer who knocked her down, stomped her with steel-toe boots, and her managers watched without intervening, and they decided not to even call the police. Zabney posted this 18-minute Facebook Live video that we cut down for time on July 16th. This was 4 days after the alleged incident, describing how she had been asked by management to unlock the ice machine to allow a customer to purchase a bag of ice. However, she said the manager had tossed her 3 sets of keys and the new employee did not know which one unlocked the ice machine. She had not been trained on that particular operation. Quote, "I'm new, so I don't know which key it is," she said in the video. Quote, "The customer that was waiting on the ice started getting aggravated." She said the man, whom she identifies as Desmond Pollard, who goes by Big Dez, then started berating and insulting her, saying, quote, "If you don't know what the F you doing, it seems like you don't even need to be MF working here," she accused the man of saying. Response, quote, "I'm like, sir, I'm new. Don't talk to me like that while I'm trying to help assist you." First of all, let's be very clear. At this point, if management has already had a problem with the customer, and now the customer is berating another employee, utilizing profanity, being aggressive, well, that is the time when management steps in and says, "You have to go, sir. And if you do not, you will have the police called on you for committing trespass." No customer is able to talk to an employee in this manner, period. Real simple, but that's not what happened. There's more, all right? So the customer that was waiting on ice got aggravated. And so she said, "I'm trying to help you," right? "I'm trying to help assist you," is how she said. She responded to him, quote, "I'm new. I don't know which key it is," which is understandable. "I'm sorry, but I don't." She said that is when Pollard pushed her and punched her. Miss Abney says she began defending herself by punching him back. But then he knocked her down on the ground and began kicking her with steel-toe boots, and several people, including employees and management, just stood there and watched him attacking her. Quote, "Until I finally could get him off me," she said, adding that she ended up with a swollen face and abrasions on her legs. She describes Pollard as a well-known figure in the community who instills fear in people, which is why no one wanted to intervene. Quote, "Everybody's scared of Big Dez," she said. That's why they said they didn't stop it, because it was Big Dez. Okay. We're not afraid of Big Dez over here. So any information I receive about Big Dez, I hope somebody sends me the picture quickly. I'm not CNN, I will post it. What Big Dez has done is under investigation by the police. We're going to get into that. So Abney said she quit the job and reported the incident to the Laurel Police Department in Mississippi, which did confirm they currently have an open investigation that might lead to misdemeanor charges. They wanted to make sure they clarified. Misdemeanor charges against Pollard. Quote, "It appears to be a misdemeanor because of the nature of the lady's injuries, said Laurel Police Chief Tommy Cox in a phone interview with Atlanta Black Star. No broken bones, just scrapes, end quote. You see the fix is in, correct? The ongoing investigation has already rendered a conclusion by way of the chief of police because of the unassessed injuries of the victim. Isn't that something? They are choosing to charge him with a misdemeanor if the charges ever actually come. They already have concluded this. Naturally, there are multiple felonies that could apply here. There's more. Chief Cox said he is assisting her in filing a report against Pollard, but it will be up to the local judge on Wednesday during a probable cause hearing to determine whether to sign the warrant for his arrest. I'm not advocating anybody ever lay hands on a woman. That's despicable as far as I'm concerned. But for any kind of assault, the injuries have to reach a very high level for it to become aggravated assault, Cox said. So at this point, it looks to be a misdemeanor assault for the city court. Now, what the chief is saying is holistically untrue, okay? He's saying the crime itself must render more serious injury. So according to the chief, since she doesn't have injuries based on his subjective standard becomes law. What is the measure? The measure is not simply the damage to the human body. If you were trying to harm someone and you had a knife in your hand and you did not cut the person you were trying to harm, but you cut someone who was trying to stop you from harming them, and the cut is not a stab, it's a cut, you get charged with aggravated assault. You know why you get charged with aggravated assault? Number one, you had a weapon. His steel-toe boots are a weapon. Number two, you did what's called transferred intent. You transferred the intent of one victim to the other. Even though it was unintentional, it did happen. It's aggravated assault every day of the week. There's more. Abney also said that management at the Dollar General store decided to not be cooperative in the investigation by not allowing police to even watch the security video footage of the crime. Quote, they didn't even want to give them the tape. They didn't even want to let the officer watch the tape, end quote. Calls for the local Dollar General store where she worked went unanswered, and an email to the company's media relations department in Tennessee remains unanswered. When Ms. Abney did her initial Facebook Live video, it was viewed over 1.7 million times, has received more than 5,900 comments, most of which are outraged by her story. So a few things here. Dollar General Corporate, you have some answers to give. You will not duck, dodge, deny, and deflect this one. This is your corporate entity, regardless of it being a franchise or direct corporate owned store. It doesn't matter. They have to follow your guidelines in order to maintain their license, period. Also, this attack seems to be perhaps possibly racially motivated with some racial undertones here, maybe through management or elsewhere. This needs to be addressed as well. To the young lady, I'm sorry you had to go through this and experience the reality of this country. And it is this, that women of color are typically the most underprotected demographic in the nation. But we try to even the odds here. We're going to stay on top of this. Hell of a story, makes my blood boil. Sharon, I know it upsets you as well. What say you?
Well, I heard some things in your reporting, Doc. Local judge, obviously telegraphing where this is going to go.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would be speaking about what you're going to do or speculating if you have not yet completed your investigation. But it's another example of how the Black woman is the least protected in our country.
Right. That's right. We'll bring you updates, obviously, as they develop. To the young lady, continue fighting for your justice, okay? All right. So, there used to be a tradition when somebody passes away, you don't start talking ish about them while the family is still mourning the loss in particular. Even politics used to have a code here, no more. The passing of Representative Jackson Lee, Miss Lee, passed away. Family still mourning. Far right-wing personality, put it at full mass, decided to say very harmful, hurtful, and negative things. Far-right internet personality Laura Loomer is who I'm talking about. So this individual wanted to be known for posting hateful, racist, bigoted remarks about former U.S. House Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. This was shortly after the 74-year-old passed away last week. The death of the Texas Democrat and longtime representative was announced by our family on July 20th. We talked about it as well, and came 1 month after announcing she was undergoing treatment for pancreatic cancer. A progressive in Congress since 1995, Jackson Lee championed women and civil rights, law enforcement reform, domestic violence legislation, and more. So the far right loony, known as Loomer, a 100% Trump supporter and right-wing firebrand, tweeted about Lee's death the day it was announced, calling Lee a ghetto B word with a low IQ. So Loomer tweeted on X, quote, even on her deathbed, this ghetto B word couldn't keep President Trump's name out of her disgusting mouth. I'd say rest in peace, but we all know lying Democrats who have destroyed our country are going to hell. Sheila Jackson Lee will be remembered as a destructive force in America and one of the most low IQ members of Congress in the history of our nation. Today she died. Instead of spending her final moments with her family, she was talking ish about Trump on X and spewing more lies. She won't be missed, but I'm sure she will be voting. I'm sure she will be voting Democrat this November. Will not, yeah. So Loomer posted the rant in a response. This was an apparent response to a tweet Lee posted on her X account just before her death. The post read, quote, I have no idea what Donald Trump was talking about last night. For more than an hour, he rambled and lied. He is unfit for the presidency. Now, my friends, it's the time to focus on beating him and his Project 2025 monstrosity. Enough is enough. Now, keep that up for just a moment. She's doing her job. She's on her deathbed, yes. Still doing her job. What is her job? To be a voice of representation for those who elected her. Was also a superdelegate for the DNC. She's doing her job. What she said is true. The right-wing commentator criticized the fact that she decided to spend some of her time still representing the collective voice of her community. But the right-wing commentator could not rebut the truth of what was said. So Loomer posted the rant in the response, and Loomer's response drew, obviously, backlash and also some MAGA, racist, bigoted supporters. They are amongst us. Many of whom opposed the comments talked of the right-wingers' lack of common decency when addressing the dead, while several others directly challenged her racism. So Democratic Representative Reecie Torres of New York clapped back at her, tweeting, Laura Loomer, a Donald Trump supporter, refers to a black Congress member who passed away as a ghetto B word. These are the words of a rabid racist who represents everything that is rancid and rotten about the far right. There's a special place in hell for Laura Loomer. Returning the hell comment back to her. Another ex-user, Alex Cole, would list Representative Jackson Lee's accomplishments, background. Sheila Jackson Lee went to Yale. She graduated from the University of Virginia School of Law. She was a lawyer, a judge on the city council, and a congresswoman. But Republicans see a black person and think ghetto, but don't call them racist. I roll emoji. Okay, there's more. Against the mounting criticism, Loomer only doubled down on her remarks. Loomer would reply to Torres with a quote, Sheila Jackson Lee was a Ghetto B word. I stand by what I said, end quote. Several minutes later, she'd expand further on her double down, retweeting Torres' post with the quote, Sheila Jackson Lee was a Ghetto B word. I stand by what I said. Why should I soften my language just because she was a black, low-Q DEI member of Congress? I don't care what color someone is, but please, for the love of God, be smart and speak proper English if you're paid by my taxpayer dollars, end quote. Loomer is a twice failed congressional candidate whose extremist views have repeatedly been promoted by Trump on his social media accounts in the past, including numerous conspiracy theories about the deadly January 6th Capitol attack, the terrorist attack. She's also posted anti-Muslim and anti-immigration sentiments, and she spread misinformation about multiple mass shootings. She is seen as a controversial figure even by MAGA supporters and Republican operatives, but despite their criticisms, the former president still likes her, shows her a lot of favor. She was invited to travel with Trump to multiple events over the years, including a campaign rally in Iowa in January, where he publicly praised her as a, quote, a very important person politically, end quote. She was backed by Trump in 2020 when she ran for a House seat in Florida, but lost to a Democrat. She ran again in 2022 for a House seat in a different Florida district, but never made it past her own political primary. So she is the one who is unaccomplished. Her goals have turned into failures. And instead of pulling herself up by her bootstraps and getting on with life, she decides to criticize somebody who has shown significant goal setting and goal accomplishment. But once again, it doesn't matter to people like her what university degrees you may have or what level of education your capacity lends to you. It doesn't matter to her that you have accomplishments in your life. What matters to her is that you're not white. That is the part that matters to people like her. And the reason why this story is important is because according to Trump, she is important to him. She is important to him. She's not important to me. She may not be important to you, but it becomes required to understand the philosophy of a person by who they celebrate. Donald Trump celebrates this clown. All right, Sharon, thoughts here?
Well, you about said it all. Representative Jackson Lee was a stalwart, a pioneer, highly favored, a powerful voice, and we miss her. She is not silenced, though, as her legacy lives on. And among the more ignorant and racist comments was this constant attacking of a very brilliant woman's intellect.
Right.
Okay, I didn't hear her doing that about Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, by the way, could use some grammar lessons, and it's Commander-in-Chief Marjorie Taylor Greene, not Commander-in-Chief. You don't even know the title. So look at home first and leave the representative's name out your mouth.
That's right. There you go. All right. One of the most extreme stories you will hear. 36-year-old woman shot inside of her own home when she called the police. Here's the video.
The body camera video reveals the events leading up to the horrific scene.
What took you so long to answer the door?
Oh, I was trying to put on some clothes, sir. I'm sorry.
You doing all right mentally?
Yes.
Sure?
My medicine and stuff.
All right. Okay.
I love y'all. Thank y'all.
Inside the home, Sangamon County Sheriff's Deputy Sean Grayson can be heard asking Sonya Massey to check on the stove.
We don't need a fire while we're here.
Within seconds, things become tense.
Where you going?
Huh?
Where you going?
Away from your hot steaming water.
Away from my hot steaming water?
Yeah.
Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Huh?
I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
God, I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
Now I have more video. So at this point, she's running water. The officer says, I'm going to shoot you in your effing face. Okay, now remember, she calls 911. She believes there is possibly someone, a prowler, on the property. They are there to help her. She may be experiencing a mental health episode. This has to come across the mind of the officer based on the question he posed. Are you mentally okay? Here's the thing. Sometimes people who are not mentally okay are not able to articulate. They are not mentally okay. Here's what happens next.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Massey starts to set down the pot and apologizes. Grayson fires 3 times, striking her in the face.
Headshot wounded female, 1078.
Prosecutors say Grayson's partner tried to give the 36-year-old first aid, even though Grayson discouraged him.
I'm gonna go get my kit. No, you're done. You can go get it, but that's a headshot.
You can go get it, but that's a headshot. She's done. Put her up, full mass here. Sonya Massey, 36 years of age, fatally shot by police. She's a Black woman who dared to call 911 for help. This was released Monday in a case that has led to murder charges against that deputy. The 36-minute video that we shortened for time via the Illinois State Police includes body camera footage from each of the 2 county sheriff's deputies. They responded to Massey's house after midnight of July 6th. After Ms. Massey called 911 to report a possible prowler at her home in Springfield, according to the court document filed by prosecutors. In the footage, Deputy Sean Grayson and another deputy speak calmly with Massey in her home, when she goes to the stove to turn off, a pot of boiling water. She then picks up the pot and the other deputy steps back away from your hot steaming water. He said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, she says in response. Huh? The deputy says. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, she repeats. Quote, you better effing not, or I swear to God, I effing shoot you in the effing face, Officer Grayson says. He then draws his firearm, points it at her, and she ducks and says, I'm sorry, while lifting the pot, the video shows, drop the effing pot, both deputies yell. 3 shots are heard. Now, let's just back up for a moment. The deputy who was charged with murder was rightfully charged with murder, obviously. Just think about the de-evaluation of life by this deputy. There's no indication that she's trying to harm them. And even if there was any level of mental health or cognitive dysfunction, and there was paranoia there, and possibly some level of aggression, it's water. They could literally just leave the home. They're inside of her house. She's committed no crime if they cared about her life. Now, I want to contrast that to a story that we covered right here on Indisputable, when literally police went to a hospital, wife and husband in the room. The wife has already shot multiple times inside of the hospital room where her husband is. And what does the cop say when he responds? He says to her, we have all day. We'll wait on you. Just put the gun down. Just come on out. Her life was preserved. There's more. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, she says. So 3 shots are heard. After a few seconds of silence, one deputy says, shots fired, and calls for emergency medical services. Quote, dude, I'm not taking effing boiling water to the effing head. And look, it came right at our feet too, Grayson says, minutes after the shooting. Grayson speaks to another law enforcement figure. Quote, she had boiling water and came at me with boiling water. He says in that video, she said she was going to rebuke me in the name of Jesus and came at me with boiling water. CNN has sought comment from Grayson's attorney. Okay, so now obviously you didn't see any of that in the video. None of that happened in that manner in the video. These are lies. Sir, I'm a man of faith, deputy. I think she saw the devil inside of you. When she was rebuking you, it was because she saw the devil that you are. There's more. Sonya Massey was shot and killed by the responding officer after she called 911, according to officials. Benjamin Crump, dear friend and attorney at law, wanted the release of this video. The release of the video comes about 2 weeks after the fatal shooting, just days after Grayson was charged in her death. Grayson, 30, was indicted by a grand jury last week on 3 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count each of aggravated battery with a firearm and official misconduct. He has entered a not guilty plea and was denied pretrial release, according to court records. Massey is one of a number of Black women who have been killed by police in their own homes in recent years. Remember Breonna Taylor and others. In a news conference Monday afternoon, civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump, who represents the Massey family, connected her death to other cases of police violence against Black people across the U.S. Quote, until we get justice for Sonya Massey, we rebuke this discriminatory criminal justice system in the name of Jesus, he said. Grayson did not activate his body camera until after he fatally shot Miss Massey, another violation. That's according to charging documents. The other deputy had activated his body camera when he first arrived at the scene as per mandate. According to footage from the other deputy's body camera, the incident began with the 2 deputies walking around Massey's yard and finding a vehicle with broken windows. They then knock on the door, speak with her, and she struggles to understand and answer some questions about the vehicle and about herself, which, by the way, should have been the telltale sign that there's possibly a mental health dynamic here. After they speak in her living room, the deputies note the pot was on the lit stove, and one says, we don't need a fire while we're here. Massey gets up and turns off the stove, and the shooting then follows. Immediately after the shooting, the video records Grayson telling his partner Massey would not need medical help. The other deputy says he's going to get a medical kit to help, but Grayson responds, nah, she's done. You can get it, but that's a headshot. Grayson later goes to his vehicle to get his own medical supplies. When he gets back to the house, he asks if there's anything he can do, but is told no. Now, I want you to hear this next quote because it's chilling. It says, all right, I'm not even going to waste my med stuff then, Grayson says. Next, Grayson leaves the house and speaks to a group of law enforcement officers. Yeah, I'm good. This F and B word is crazy, he says, according to the footage. Now, he's murdered her. She's dead, okay? In the news conference Monday, along with members of the family, Crump said Massey had mental health challenges, but was not aggressive toward the deputies. She needed a helping hand, he said. She did not need a bullet to the face. Massey's father, James Wilbur, said he initially received conflicting information from law enforcement. Quote, I was under the impression that a prowler had broken in and killed my baby. Never did they say that it was a deputy-involved shooting until my brother read it on the internet, Wilburn said at the news conference. Quote, we were led to believe that the intruder or someone from the neighborhood may have killed her. We were absolutely shocked to find out that it was a deputy who shot her. Wilburn told CNN's Laura Coates on Monday night, quote, "You're used to having the talk with boys, but now I guess we have to talk with our girls about their interactions with the police," Wilburn said. Wilburn said that his daughter's death had left him heartbroken. Quote, "Sonya was a daddy's girl. She never ended a conversation, whether by text or telephone or in person, without saying, 'Daddy, I love you.'" And that's the last message I have from my daughter. That saved in my voicemail was, "Daddy, I love you." Crump told Laura Coates that he expected the release of the video showing the heinous killing of this innocent woman to galvanize the community. "It's so senseless," he says. "I mean, it's disturbing. This video is reminiscent in the last presidential cycle in 2020 when the George Floyd video, encouraged our community to act. And in this 2024 election, I believe this Sonya Massey video is going to encourage our community to act, because Sonya Massey deserve better than this." Since the shooting, local and state officials have criticized the deputy's actions as unjustified use of force. A review of the Illinois State Police investigation into the shooting, quote, "does not support a finding that Grayson was justified in his use of deadly force," the state's attorney for the county said in a July 17th news release. In a court document filed by the state last week, prosecutors said the use of force expert had reviewed the body camera footage and concluded the use of deadly force was not, in fact, justified. And almost every expert basically has said the exact same thing. This deputy has been charged with murder. We're going to follow this case. What else can you say other than unbelievable but believable? We are here. We are hopeful that justice does happen in this case, but typically this is part of a culture of corruption that happens across this country, contextualized through law enforcement agencies. Sharon, thoughts here?
Here we are again. And here we have another father, another family grieving over what should have never even been contemplated.
Yeah.
This is a cold-blooded, savage killer. He may not kill your dog, but he will kill a Black woman. He'll shoot her in the head and then say, don't bother even trying to help. This is a sick individual that must be removed from the streets. And the culture that allows him to behave in this manner or reared him up this way has got to change. I'm disgusted and heartbroken.
That's right. Well said. And they knew what it was when it happened. I'm waiting for the day when an unfortunate thing will be done by a cop, and the cop who is his partner will say, put your hands behind your back. You are under arrest today. We got more on the other side.
Not?
That's right. Indisputable, so you can stay.
You would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one. You're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said no, other than day one.
By locking up his enemies, by breaking all the rules, the courts, yeah, right. Them and what army?
This country needs a dictator. I hate to say that, but it's the truth.
It's the truth. From the Young Turks, Americans saying they want a dictator.
I'd rather have Donald Trump as a dictator for 4 years. I'm going dictator Trump for sure.
How crazy will his supporters go?
I'm going to be a dictator for one day.
Everywhere you look, things are getting more expensive. Here at TYT, we understand this. That's why we're not gonna price gouge you or use inflation as an excuse to raise our prices. A TYT membership is not your typical subscription, but basic membership is still just $4.99. So what do you get for that price? For starters, you're getting exclusive programming, unique, exclusive designs from Shop TYT, access to a members-only chat, giveaways, emojis, and so many other amazing perks. But most importantly, you're helping to make an impact. As a TYT member, you not only help us do the shows every day, but you drive real positive change in the process. In 2017, we helped to start Justice Democrats right here on TYT. That's a group that got 12 progressives elected into Congress. That's amazing, you did that. Your support also funds TYT's very own investigative reporting. Just recently, our reporters exposed the Fellowship Foundation and pressured lawmakers into boycotting that bigoted event. Isn't that amazing? We raised over $30,000 for Jackson, Mississippi, and delivered clean water to thousands of people in need. Our petitions, polls, and community of activists help keep the corruption of Washington in check. That's the impact of what just $4.99 a month from our members can do. And we're just getting started. Positive change doesn't occur overnight, but with your contribution, we can make it happen together.
I got pulled in. They told me, hey, listen, Cenk, we're insiders. We are the establishment. People in Washington tell me that they're concerned about your tone. We think that there's a better role for you, and it's not in 6 o'clock. The problem with the mainstream media is they're desperate to get access. They don't challenge the government. They don't challenge power. We're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media.
Components that corrupt our politicians, I think, also corrupt mainstream media. It's really difficult for cable outlets to talk about things like income inequality, wealth inequality, when the advertisers that are funding their shows are the same corporations that want to ensure that the same system continues. People watch digital media or new media, they get a completely different message. They focus on the issues that matter or resonate more with the constituency. We need to know one thing. Is the corporate media incompetent?
Corporate media, I can't hear you. Establishment press, where are you? I can't hear you. The media's position I am clear on. Everything is pro-war, so everything is just framed that way. In this case, I mean, war is inevitable, right? I mean, the defense contractors should get a couple more $1 trillion. You ready for the stunning results? Only 6% of people say they have a great deal of confidence in the press. Wakey, wakey, okay? Progressives don't like the media either. You know why? It's the corporate media. Corporate media sounds like a conspiracy. Wait. Who owns you? Multi-billion-dollar corporations, public corporations. The idea that we're corporate media because corporations own us. Yeah, that's how it works.
Join the Dragon Squad by becoming a YouTube channel member. Click the join button below or sign up on tyt.com/join to get access to fun emojis, a member-only chat, exclusive shop TYT designs, ad-free watching, and so many other amazing perks. Plus, you get bragging rights for being part of the coolest community on the internet and help us drive real positive change in the world. The Dragon Squad awaits, so join today.
All right, welcome back. A lot of show left. Let me read some of these beautiful comments. Pee-wee Shuttlepan says, I feel terrible for her. She doesn't deserve that. People suck. I hope she files a huge lawsuit against them all and wins. Talking about the Dollar General scene and situation. Also, Mongoose Dragon, Laura Loomer is a perfect example of what the Republican Party is. That is correct. That is correct. The standard bearer of the Republican Party, meaning the nominee, Trump, likes her. Also, Haku Dragon, he's the one that told her to go to the stove. That's right. That's right. And C. Michael Henson, thank you, C. Michael. Loomer represents this trend of angry racist white women that is unfortunately gaining more popularity amongst the right wing. That is correct. And Jen Hack, welcome to Indisputable. Thank you for joining. And also, let's go to Twitch. Mr_YF, why would you be afraid? You called us. Proceeds to prove why she should be afraid. Yeah. All right, got something for you, ladies and gentlemen. I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Hey, man.
Bad people. Bad people.
First time I've seen a Karen.
Get their license plate and you can, write it down.
Okay. I feel like I'm having a mini heart attack. I don't know. Oh, she took off the part for the gas. Took off the part for the gas. All right. 8065. I got it.
Yeah. All right. So let's put it a full mass. This Karen is pulling up on people, obviously, and kicking cars. So this Karen, according to the Post, repeatedly kicks a driver's car while in the middle of traffic. Okay. We'll keep that picture up just for a moment. It is time for someone to do an intervention. If you feel comfortable enough to get out of your vehicle and start kicking somebody else's vehicle, this is an unwise decision. We have seen individuals get harmed and even worse. In this situation, you got lucky that they were not about that action. But somebody knows you. I'm sure somebody loves you. They need to talk to you. It's time for an intervention, as I said. All right, Sharon, the audacity here to commit a criminal offense, regardless of what the conflict may be, by getting out of your car and kicking somebody else's vehicle.
This Karen needs counsel swiftly, Doc, because somebody might kick that ass. Okay,
Right.
You're not going to continue to behave this way and get away with it. But they follow their own rules until somebody tells them otherwise. You've had those people on before.
Yep, there you go. All right. Hopefully she gets the help she needs. Okay. Megyn Kelly, who unfortunately is a colleague of mine at Sirius XM Radio, went full racist once again. Here it is.
I am a woman. I have a daughter. I hate the fact that there's been no female presidents. I really do. I hate the fact that when you take out your little placemat, when your kids are learning the presidents, there's no female face on there, and then you have to explain why. It's effed up. I would love to see a female president, like a Margaret Thatcher type, somebody who's strong and serious and sober and respected. This ain't it. I am telling you, America is not going to elect this Nimrod as its first female president. I trust in them too much for that. They're not that dumb, and they're not that open to a female president to where they'd be like, anybody will do. On this on Twitter right now about whether her sleeping with Willie Brown when she was an up-and-coming, inspiring politician in San Francisco is fair game. It's part of a pattern of her ascending to positions that she does not deserve based on merit for other reasons.
Yeah, Megyn Kelly. See, Megyn Kelly, she likes her female politicians like she likes her Jesus and Santa Claus, white only.
And by the way, for all you kids watching at home, Santa just is white, but this person is just arguing that maybe we should also have a black Santa. Just because it makes you feel uncomfortable doesn't mean it has to change. Jesus was a white man too, but
yeah. So from there, she was able to land a weekday hosting job on NBC and now has a popular show on Sirius XM. After those comments, Megyn Kelly, you are in your position because of your skin color. Put it up for a mass. So when Kelly kept pushing the narrative on X, another user pointed out the contradiction. Quote, in her 2016 memoir, where she also recounted Roger Ailes' sexual harassment, Megyn Kelly fumed over the rumors that she had an affair with Brit Hume. Quote, I hated that people might think I was getting ahead by sleeping my way to the top. Now she's out here trying to slut shame Kamala Harris. Megyn joined the gallery of conservatives insulting Harris. Here it is.
Biden said, first off, he said he's going to hire a black female for vice president, and that he just skipped over. What about white females?
She didn't earn this. She inherited it. And Americans aren't hot on heirs.
They like self-made men and women.
I don't know Kamala. I served in the United States Marine Corps and I built a business. What the hell have you done other than collect a government check for the past 20 years?
All right. She's a DEI hire, right? She's a woman. She's colored, therefore she's got to be good.
When you go down that route, you take mediocrity, and that's what they have right now as a vice president.
So are you suggesting she was a DEI hire?
100%. She was a DEI hire.
DEI hire. You know what that means? Diversity, equity, inclusion. Something that we said we stood for in the United States of America. You see, qualifications are there. She's credentialed. The person that has the least qualifications who became president in modern context is Donald Trump himself. Least qualifications. The most massive failures in his background. You see, when Trump is on the conversation table, nobody talks about his qualifications or lack thereof. But when there's a woman, in particular, a woman of color, they talk about qualifications. She went to law school. She passed the bar. She was an attorney general elected by the people. Did the people elect a DEI hire? She defeated white males to get that position, including becoming a US senator, overcoming the odds. But this is what they will do. Now, they don't talk about her exacting qualifications. They don't talk about point by point. The reason they won't do that is because if you talk about her exacting qualifications, you then have to make a case for the lack of qualifications of Donald Trump. But if they continue to simply say she doesn't have qualifications, or she lacks qualifications, or she's a DEI hire without any detail at all, they get away with a talking point and nothing more. All right? Okay. Sharon, thoughts here.
You know, it's hard for me to follow some of this nincompoop stuff. It's just too lowbrow for me. I like highbrow arguments. JD Vance was led around by a billionaire. He got handouts, and that's how he got to be 39 years old and now a VP nominee. Trump got handouts from his daddy and the banks and the government who kept bailing him out. Megyn Kelly's a white woman, as you said, who got many handouts from the network. I used to think, Doc, she was just a woman scorned because NBC had rightly fired her. I wanted to believe it was subconscious racism that often spills out with people like her, but she is a stone cold racist. And I just want to end with, well, you played the clip. The quote was, just because it makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean it has to change. Just because it makes you uncomfortable, Megyn Kelly, doesn't mean it has to change. Kamala 2024.
Come on now. And there will be more to come from Megyn Kelly and crew. I promise you that. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
I'm wearing one of our pieces of merchandise. So the funny thing about the Dragon Squad, and that's what our viewers call themselves. That's the name of the group, but every individual chooses their own name. You might have Cincinnati Dragon. You might have Harry Potter Dragon. We have a Grandma Sunshine Dragon is one of those that I remember. These are people that like to have an element of themselves, their lives, what's significant to them reflected as a part of the community. But the concept of the Dragon Squad is just something I threw away as a joke. I was mocking the Proud Boys, these like right-wing groups that come up with a name for themselves that they think is cool, but it's actually really lame. And I thought, off the top of my head, I can come up with something that's still kind of lame, but much cooler. And so I threw out Dragon Squad and I just moved on with my life. But everybody liked it, and so they kept it going, and so we've embraced it. And I think again, this was during the period of the pandemic. I think it was sort of nice to have a renewed sense of community, a feeling that you're a part of something when everything seems so chaotic. And as a result of that, we've got independent artists online streaming, making beautiful digital art of dragons. We've got, we've released a number of pieces of merchandise that people love sending us photos of them. And then, by the way, for me personally, people send me, like you can probably see in the background, like a knitted dragon someone sent me. There's a dragon book they sent me, dragon board games they send me. People have done like custom ironworks, making dragon bottle openers. Like the fans are super invested in diamond art and things like that. And so it's great that they send this stuff. Sometime we're gonna have to set up a wall of all of it. But yeah, it's definitely brought the community a lot closer together. The fact that we were no longer in this big studio, I felt a lot more personally attached to people. It felt very immediate. And I know that I personally needed the connection.
All right, welcome back. A lot of show left. Let me read some of these comments. Pee Wee Shuttlepants, is Trump the first DEI president? Question mark. Haku Dragon, Kamala isn't qualified, but Trump is? What you smoking? And C. Michael Henson, thank you, C. Michael. Speaking of patterns, Megyn Kelly, the same thing was said about President Obama. Justice Brown Jackson, Vice President Harris. That's right. They always talked about qualifications. Okay. All right. Miami Florida cops, they decided to hold an innocent black veteran at gunpoint. Put up the picture full mask. Hell of a story. In Florida, Naomi Simmons, Miss Simmons, who served in the Afghanistan war, was sitting at home by herself alone one night last month when somebody began banging on her daughter's bedroom door. She stepped outside to see what the commotion was about and was met by Miami-Dade police officers pointing guns at her face, telling her they were looking for a man named Marquise Wiley who was wanted on felony gun charges and believed to be living in the house. Now, Ms. Simmons told local news that she had been living at the Miami Gardens home for more than a year and had never met Mr. Wiley or known anything about him. Nevertheless, Simmons was able to track down Wiley's whereabouts from her phone shortly after Miami-Dade police officers left her home after not finding him. Put him up. So after she did her investigation, turns out Marquise Wiley was already in custody. 35-year-old man with a lengthy rap sheet had been sitting in the Broward County jail since January after having been transferred from a jail in Miami-Dade County. Quote, I was able to find it with no resources and a cell phone on my couch, Simmons told NBC Miami. He was at the prison before they even came to my door, end quote. They also neglected to see that Wiley had already been in custody in the Miami-Dade jail system in December while still having an active warrant, which Atlanta Black Star was able to confirm in minutes through the Broward County Public Accessible Database for court documents. The document signed by the circuit court judge on December 13th, 2023, states that Mr. Wiley is, quote, presently incarcerated at Metro West Detention Center. This center is about 6 miles from the main headquarters of the Miami-Dade Police Department in Doral, which is a municipality in West Miami-Dade County. So court records also show he pleaded guilty on May 9th to 5 charges related to armed robbery and was sentenced to more than 10 years in prison that same day. More than a month later, Miami-Dade police decided to raid Simmons' home, even though court records from Miami-Dade's court system last connect Wiley to the address they raided in 2018, according to a restraining order a woman filed against him that year. But police say they were just going by the address on his driver's license, which is how they obtained the warrant. And even though he has a completely different address listed on his booking sheet from December, which state he has lived at the address for 12 months, while police wrote off the incident as a minor blunder because nobody had been killed, Simmons was left traumatized by the experience. Quote, I'm still not sleeping. I'm still having nightmares, she told NBC Miami. I already suffer from PTSD from my time in Afghanistan. Miami-Dade police refused the on-camera interview request with NBC Miami, but tried to point the blame to the county sheriff's office, saying, quote, they should have checked on Wiley's status before transferring him to state custody due to his pending gun case, end quote. But under those guidelines, Miami-Dade County detention officers could have also checked on his status before handing him over to Broward deputies, which would have likely prevented him or them from raiding the home of an innocent Black woman. So put up Deputy Director Stephanie V. Daniels of the Miami-Dade Police, and then you have Broward County Sheriff Gregory Toney. Instead of apologizing to the victims of this horrific situation, they are pointing fingers at each other. The reality is all of y'all left up. That's the reality. The reality is the investigators did not investigate. How in the hell are you an investigator and you didn't Google somebody? You didn't utilize the database that's publicly accessible. You decided to go on one address that was found, but not the most recent address that was present in your system. You all don't talk to each other? All right, hell of a thing. Once again, the breakdown, the incompetence inside of law enforcement. Sharon, thoughts here?
I don't know what we can do to get things back on track, or I guess they never were in the first place.
Yeah.
A complete overhaul of the system is necessary. You've suggested some of the reforms. They're slow to take those on with only a few, even test marketing, so to speak, some of the onboarding for some of the qualification of these officers. It's just despicable, Doc. It really is.
Yeah, I agree 100%. All right. Miami-Dade again, they hired a convicted embezzler. Yes, to oversee department contracts. I kid you not, put it up full mass. Per the Miami New Times, Miami-Dade County hired a convicted contract scammer, Christopher Kovanes, to oversee county contracts. Back in November 2005, while employed as a Davie Town administrator, Christopher was arrested for embezzling $500,000 from the Broward County municipality by awarding town contracts to phony companies that he set up and pocketed the money himself. Christopher, the embezzler, pleaded guilty to felony charges of fraud, money laundering, and was sentenced to 12 years in prison, followed by 10 years of probation. November 2005, the Associated Press reported Christopher has surrendered to authorities to face his embezzlement charges. He served as Davie's town administrator from October 2004 until his arrest in 2005. He was released from state custody in 2019 and remains on probation until 2029. It was in the damn paper, okay? Unlike many convicted felons who struggled to find work post-incarceration, Christopher secured a job fairly quickly after re-entering the market. In March 2022, he landed a position with the Miami-Dade County as a part-time Port Miami passenger safety officer. A safety officer. 6 months later, September 2022, the ex-town leader advanced to a gig in Miami-Dade County's Department of Transportation and Public Works as an administrative officer. Remember, he's a convicted embezzler from government, where he was tasked with overseeing department contracts, preparing bid proposals. They put him in the same damn position that he already pleaded guilty for committing fraud in another governmental office. So picture, you got the Miami-Dade County Inspector. This is the Inspector General, Felix. A recent probe by the Office of the Inspector General found the county negligently promoted Christopher to a fiscal oversight position and retained him for 2 years despite his past conviction. They knew about the conviction, is the point. They were aware. The probe revealed the county failed to evaluate his criminal history properly prior to his promotion. They knew about it initially, allowing him to access sensitive financial information, which the inspector notes directly correlated to his criminal background. So the scathing report concluded that the Miami-Dade County officials had no formal policy or procedure requiring departments to review employees' criminal history when they change job positions or transfer departments. These lapses in the processes allowed Mr. Kovanes, who is still serving his sentence for abusing his public office, to be in a position of financial responsibility acquiring goods and services, the OIG wrote, referring to the active 10-year probation. So when Christopher was hired as a passenger safety officer at the Miami-Dade port in 2022, the port's hiring manager was apparently aware of the fraud conviction. They knew about it. Government was aware. After the manager reviewed his background, checked, and consulted with the supervisor, the HR department determined that his past criminal case did not disqualify him for the entry-level position, which involved helping and directing passengers at the airport. And then the promotion came after that. Hell of a thing, a whole lot of nuances. But the reality is they took advantage of a known loophole. It was not an unknown loophole. He got to that promotion because they knew nobody would do another check, even though the government officials who hired him were well aware, including HR. So even if they didn't do another check, Human Resources already said, we know he has a criminal conviction. We gave the okay for him to have this particular post. So regardless of what you may spend to say, well, the departments don't have a protocol. They don't need a protocol per department because they have HR. All right, Sharon, thoughts here.
Well, they think we're stupid and they do these mental gymnastics with us. But perhaps this is the most qualified person for the job because we've uncovered a lot of corruption.
Yeah.
We've uncovered a lot of corruption, so maybe that's fitting. They'll fit right in.
Yeah, there you go. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick a stay.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one.
Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to big pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
All right, well, here we go. A GOP pundit caught pretending to be a black Trumper online. Yeah, it's many of them. Okay, put it up full mask. Ex-user, Baloney Tony, 305, caught pundit red-handed. Writing on X, I just caught Joey Manorino pretending to be a black woman voting as a Republican. Please share this far and wide, all MAGA has are lies, okay? So Tony shared the screenshot of a since deleted post where Joey, posing as a black woman, wrote the following: "I'm a true black American woman." I knew from the first sentence this wasn't. Okay. "I'm a true black American woman, and I've been black all my life. I was born black. I would die black. My mommy black." I'm sorry. This sounds like somebody else trying to act black, like a black woman. Okay. "My daddy black. I would never cast a ballot for that Kamala Harris woman as long as I live. Trump all the way, all day, every day." End quote. Okay. So please note how the user profile pic and name of the user who replied clearly do not belong to a black woman, despite them including the photo of a black woman. Joey, on the left, is an Italian-American conservative commentator out of Philly. The black woman he pretended to be was Laverne Spicer on the right, who was running for Congress in Florida's 24th district. Spicer would reply to Tony's post saying, "Y'all sound stupid. Joey not me and I'm not Joey. Joey need to learn how to log the F out of people's iPads when he borrows them though. Got me out here effed up." End quote. One user would ask her why she let him use her account, to which she stated, "He don't use my account, he used my iPad when his ass was at my warehouse and I left himself in the damn thing. Now got me out here effed up, about to put his phone number out and let y'all call him and ask him." End quote. Another user questioning still whether Spicer was Spicer asked her to post a video of herself, to which she replied, "I post videos every damn week." Okay, there you go. Both Spicer and Joey even did a live podcast on Tuesday to dispel any further notions of Spicer not being a real person. The left's latest conspiracy, Joey's behind every right-wing account on Twitter. We dispelled that with the one and only Laverne Spicer live broadcast. Sir, you're going to apologize for lying to people. So in case anyone was curious about Spicer's feelings on VP Harris, in a Monday post, Spicer wrote, "I was one of the first black women in my area to make the switch to the GOP, but now there's an entire flood of new black voters coming our way. And with fake Kamala flapping her gums about all this BS, we're going to get even more in our midst." Okay. So the irony of this whole thing is, after your alleged friend does this to you, uses your image and your likeness in order to say a lie from you, you're still calling this person your friend. That's the irony of this whole thing. You don't love yourself. All right, Sharon, thoughts here.
I don't know, maybe there's a check involved, but stupid and stupid hanging together here.
Yeah.
First of all, we can end it with this. If there's so many blacks racing to get to the GOP and just disgusted with Kamala, how come we never get to see them? Blacks for Trump, besides the actors who stand behind President Trump and Vance now. There's a couple of actors. I hope they're paid well.
Yeah, they get day rate, I'm sure. But you're right. It's like finding where's Waldo at a Trump rally when looking for a black person. Sharon, always a pleasure. Have you on the program. Tell people how they can follow you. Check out your great work.
Pleasure's all mine, Doc. Appreciate you more. Rebel HQ, have a new video up. Also in the Black Network. I hope you'll support the work there. And, I love TYT and I appreciate you always for giving me just a little part of your platform.
Well, you're a big part of the platform and the team, and we appreciate you even more. Thank you for all you do. All right, we got more. The bullpen is next. Stick and stay.
I'm wearing one of our pieces of merchandise. So the funny thing about the Dragon Squad, that's what our viewers call themselves. That's the name of the group, but every individual chooses their own name. You might have Cincinnati Dragon. You might have Harry Potter dragon. We have a Grandma Sunshine dragon is one of those that I remember. These are people that like to have an element of themselves, their lives, what's significant to them reflected as a part of the community. But the concept of the Dragon Squad is just something I threw away as a joke. I was mocking the Proud Boys, these like right-wing groups that come up with a name for themselves that they think is cool, but it's actually really lame. And I thought, off the top of my head, I can come up with something that's still kind of lame, but much cooler. And so I threw out Dragon Squad and I just moved on with my life. But everybody liked it, and so they kept it going, and so we've embraced it. And I think again, this was during the period of the pandemic. I think it was sort of nice to have a renewed sense of community, a feeling that you're a part of something when everything seems so chaotic. And as a result of that, we've got independent artists online streaming, making beautiful digital art of dragons. We've got, we've released a number of pieces of merchandise that people love sending us photos of them. And then, by the way, for me personally, people send me, like you can probably see in the background, like a knitted dragon someone sent me. There's a dragon book they sent me, dragon board games they send me. People have done like custom ironworks, making dragon bottle openers. Like the fans are super invested in diamond art and things like that. And so it's great that they send this stuff. Sometime we're gonna have to set up a wall of all of it. But yeah, it's definitely brought the community a lot closer together. The fact that we were no longer in this big studio, I felt a lot more personally attached to people. It felt very immediate. And I know that I personally needed the connection.
Some of these beautiful comments. I appreciate everyone for joining the conversation. Cats and Dragon says Broward and Dade County need to start talking to each other. Exactly. And the Jack says, and DEI hires are the problem. That it's really weird and ironic. If you don't like the country that you're in, 99% of the people that have been in charge have been white men. And so I don't understand how DEI is your problem when 99% of the leadership have been white males. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. My dear sister and fierce advocate, we have Reecie Colbert, who is the host, Sirius XM, the Reecie Colbert Show. Remarkable program. You all got to check it out. All right. And my colleague at Sirius XM. Good day, sister. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Reecie. Good to be with you.
Good to have you back on the show. Listen, I agreed with you. These folks had their rabbit ass mind that they thought they were going to jump over, ignore, push aside the vice president of the United States on the Democratic nomination ticket. But some people thought they were going to do that. You were part of the historic and well-coordinated conference call, I will call it, with the VP and raising a whole bunch of money in quick fashion. Tell us about that call, and we're going to get into strategy moving forward.
Well, Win with Black Women actually came about 4 years ago around the advocacy of getting a Black woman on the ticket. There's no secret that I was always for Vice President Kamala Harris being on the ticket. And so this is an organization that has for the past 4 years been doing advocacy around getting Black women elected and raising money across the country for the past 4 years. And so it was well suited to take on the challenge to almost spontaneously within a matter of hours galvanize so many Black women around making sure that Vice President Kamala Harris locked down the nomination. We heard plenty of reporting, and I know that you covered it, Dr. Reecie, about how there were plans from donors to try to skip over her. And we said, hell no, we won't go. And they saw our show of force and they knew they needed to fall right in line and get in formation.
The reality is Democrats have to win by two dynamics, energy and unity. They have to build coalitions, and they must have the energy that permeates to the younger class so that that noise, that vigor is part of the campaign. The reality is this: Biden did not have the it factor as it relates to energy. There's a possibility the party would have united under him after the nomination process, but energy has to be organic. Energy has to be injected into the process. Now, VP Harris being presidential contender Harris, that energy has been injected for sure. Talk to us about the energy that you feel with Black women in particular.
Absolutely. I mean, this has totally reinvigorated the race. I'm on the airwaves multiple times a week. I have my own show. And I was trying to shake people out of their slumber, out of their stupor, out of their being disillusioned and disengaged. And now it seems like everybody has woke up to the fact that we have a dire threat to the future of our country in Trump and Vance. And so what we've seen now is we've seen people kind of come to terms with the fact that this is happening, and all of the fear that people have of they're not gonna let her become the nominee, they're not gonna let a Black woman do this, has turned to resolve and making sure that we make history this November, because Vice President Kamala Harris, make no mistake about it, is the most qualified presidential candidate, period. She has clinched the presumably, at least on paper, without the virtual roll call, the delegates by a mile, that she needs to be the nominee. So it's time to make it happen. It's time for people to stop operating out of a sense of fear and start operating out of a sense of the fact that we have the power, we have the people power over the donors, over the racists on the other side, and we have the energy working in our favor.
And let me say this to your point, because Republicans figured something out that I think Democrats are still trying to figure out. They abandoned the electability argument a long time ago. They stopped saying who is electable and who is not. And the reason is because electability is in the parameters of the mind. And so as long as you're voting for the person, they are always electable no matter what. So they found the most disagreeable white male they could find in politics. He would have been considered the most unelectable. That's what Jeb Bush and everybody else said about him during the first Republican primary when 20 damn Republicans were on the stage. But guess what? He emerged because the people who supported him did not buy the electability argument. So those on the left, they have to also take a page out of that playbook and understand electability is in your mind. So if you believe in your person, you vote for that person, and democracy is on the ballot. Reecie, you got to talk about the reality of what's on the ballot. And I tell my college students, I say this often on air, democracy itself is actually on the ballot. Talk to us about that.
Well, the funny thing about the argument about democracy is you have a large number of people, data has shown, that don't believe democracy is working as it is. And so what I like to say is that citizenship is on the ballot. Our ability to operate as autonomous human beings, to go travel from state to state and not be, for instance, surveilled if you are a woman who needs to have an abortion procedure by your ex-boyfriend who claims that you're pregnant or that you had an abortion, like what's happening down in Texas. To be able to walk down the street in a state like Georgia and not have the cops accuse you of being an illegal immigrant and haul you off to jail with impunity because you don't have your papers while you're walking around. And so the very essence of our citizenship is truly on the ballot, and people need to stop thinking about, that, this isn't immigration, for instance, is just an issue that relates to Latinos and illegal immigrants. It relates, and I don't even like to use the word illegal, but let's just, for the sake of argument, say that we have to understand that as women, we are not federal citizens of this country anymore because our autonomy depends on where we live. And that's going to be the case for all of us if Project 2025 is implemented.
You make a hell of a point about citizenship versus democracy, because I think there's actually common ground between conservatives and Democrats to say, this form of democracy may not work for us. And there's some commonality there. Even libertarians make some really good points politically about how this democracy works. But citizenship, you make a fine point about citizenship, because the reality is that the policy of the right aims to take away dynamics of your citizenship. For example, interstate travel is a constitutional right. You have a constitutional right to interstate travel. And when a state will say, okay, you can't leave this state to do something that's legal in another state, we're going to charge you in this state with attempted murder or murder coordination, conspiracy for murder, et cetera. That's insane, because I remember when it was illegal to gamble in Georgia. So people would drive to Biloxi, or they would drive to Florida in order to gamble and come back to the state of Georgia. Nobody was waiting to arrest people in Georgia for gambling in a state where it was legal to do so. But they only started to apply these ridiculous laws as it relates to women.
Yes. Yes, but can I also add though that it's not even just women. I mean, in Texas, they wanted to be able to basically snitch on people who gave Uber rides to people going to abortion clinics. You know, it's about privacy. Part of your citizenship is the right to privacy, and so if you're corresponding with a woman who's talking about her pregnancy, then your records could be surveilled. And so people, I know a lot of times people don't think of reproductive rights as an issue that impacts men, but contraception is an issue that impacts you. Your privacy is an issue that impacts you. The ability to travel and to make a living doing Uber or Lyft is an issue that impacts you. So this really is dire when we're talking about our citizenship and the rights that we are currently enjoying, that the right has already begun stripping away. Be clear, this is not a Project 2025 future hypothetical. This is happening as we speak and has been happening for the past several years.
That's right. I sit on the board of directors for a major hospital in Atlanta, so I'm always researching these nuances between healthcare policy or legislation and then the effect from medical practitioners. And what you find is that in states where these extreme laws have been passed, medical doctors are afraid to do what is right to do what is proper to do, even if it means saving the mother's life. They are afraid to do these procedures because they believe they will be prosecuted by the law. Talk to us about that.
Well, that's the reality. I mean, the cruelty behind this, where you have to have the woman who's in sepsis, who is infected, who is fighting for her life, has a fever. I remember when I was giving birth to my baby, I struck a fever, and so they had to do an emergency C-section. Thank God I had a healthy baby and I had a healthy delivery. But these are the kinds of things that they want to traumatize women in the already most vulnerable position that they can possibly be in, and traumatize their families as well. We have a disproportionately higher maternal mortality rate in this country compared to any other developed nation. They don't want to do anything to address that. They don't want to do anything to address the infant mortality, which has gone up in states with abortion bans. That is what we are facing with the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party in November.
Well articulated. Now let's talk about strategy moving forward. Obviously, Republicans have introduced the worst policies. The vast majority of Americans disagree with their policies line by line. The vast majority of Americans agree with left-leaning policies line by line. But for some reason, damn it, the DNC has not been able to make the case. The messaging has been horrible with the DNC for years. So how does VP Harris, now presidential contender, how does she make the case about what's really at stake here and how the vast majority of Americans, line by line, actually agree with left-leaning politics over conservative?
Well, the first thing that she has to do is she has to speak truth, which she's always known to do. The fact of the matter is that people are paying more for bread and butter, for groceries, for chips, for McDonald's, hell even, for utilities and all a number of things. And so what Vice President Kamala Harris has to articulate is an economic agenda that's going to solve and resolve these issues. We started to see that with President Biden talking about capping corporate rent profit prices, which is driving up rents across the country. And so we need to see Vice President Kamala Harris and her campaign articulate the economic vision for this country. They gave out stimulus checks. They had cut child poverty in half with the child tax credit. They have reduced the cost of healthcare with many of the initiatives around Obamacare and the Inflation Reduction Act. And so those are the messages that they have to convey, is that we do not want to turn back the clock and go back to the regressive policies of Trump, who, by the way, was voted out because our economy was in the toilet when he left.
That's right. Now, here's the thing that has to happen. Just like Biden had different policies than President Obama, President Biden had a different policy with Netanyahu in Israel than President Obama did. There are some domestic dynamics that they actually disagreed on, all right? President Obama went one way, Biden believed another. Biden comes in, he does his thing. He's somewhat independent of President Obama's policies in multiple variations. Now you have VP Harris. I've interviewed VP Harris on a few occasions. And I noticed that typically if there's something that basically Biden is for, she will say, as the president has said. She will start her answer in that way. Do you think this is the time to articulate her differences, especially as it relates to things like Netanyahu, which I know she has a different point of view than Biden does? Do you think it's time for her to start to, accent those nuances of difference in her campaign?
Well, for one, I think she has a strong record to run on under the Biden-Harris administration, but people want to know what she has going forward. And so absolutely in areas where she's certainly more progressive on in terms of rent relief, in terms of economic relief, which she had the LIFT Act when she was running for president. She had the Rent Relief Act. She's certainly more progressive in terms of being more aggressive about reproductive rights than President Biden was. She absolutely should. And obviously Israel-Gaza is an issue that is very concerning to a lot of voters. And so to the extent that she can articulate that without undermining our national security, I think she can. She absolutely should. She has a lot to offer beyond just being Biden's right-hand woman. And I think the country will definitely find out more about her particular vision in the future weeks to come.
All right, there it is. So understand this. If you don't like where the country is at, just remember 100% men have been in charge of it. So now you get an opportunity. This is a refresher and a reset. I'm thankful. I am for the divine feminine spirit that's happening upon this planet. Dear sister, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Tell people how they can follow you and check out your work.
ReecieColbert.com. And I have a very fun card game called Am I Trippin' and Sounds About Right game on amitrippinggame.com. Check it out.
I love it. I love it. I love it. We will check it out. Thank you, sis, for all you do.
Thank you.
All right. Remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.